Well, Em just took my line. On behalf of Midcoast Women, I thank you all for being here. Um, and I just want to say, when we started Midcoast Women back in 2016, our goal was to strengthen and amplify the voices of women. And it just so happens that myself and my co-filmmaker do various things that do that. And so it's a perfect place for us to sponsor an event. So with that, I'm going to go away and Susanna's going to come over.
Thank you, Pam. So it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Susanna Liller. I think you all know Pam Moss, but you all seem to know her, or she seems to know all of you. We were in Bath yesterday, and I happen to live near Bath, so I think I probably knew a little bit more people, but not as many as all of you. So great to have you here to watch our film. And the way we connected 12 years ago was that we both have careers that support women and encourage women. And we do that, both of us, primarily through storytelling. And Pam does it through the films that she produces, and I do it through workshops and a podcast and books and through writing. But we came together because we wanted to do a film together. Now, it took us 12 years. And the reason why is our vision at first was pretty broad. And I think initially we interviewed maybe 12 women, and that got down to 8. And then that got down to maybe 3. And then the pandemic happened and various other things. And we said, you know, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe it's too much. And then we looked at each other and we said, we have to tell Brenda's story. We cannot not tell Brenda's story. And when you hear it, and then when she comes on and you meet her, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I think we followed what I'd like to think was the advice that Mary Oliver gave us, the poet. She said, this is her little poem, Instructions for Living a Life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. We were astonished with Brenda and her story, so we're telling about it. So let's watch.
Hi, Brenda. So we have with us Brenda Commander by the magic of Zoom.
Hello, everyone.
So it's, you know, I nearly got tears in my eyes watching that, and you'd think after all the times I've watched it and so forth, and it made me think about every time I watch it, I learn something new about Brenda, something I knew I want to learn. And I'm going to open it up to you to ask questions, and I'll bring you the microphone when it's time. But Brenda, you don't have to answer this now, but I'm going to come back to it at the end if you don't have an answer for it. And that's, you said from the beginning there was something inside you that said you could do this. Can you tell us, because room full of leaders here, what is that thing inside us we should be looking for?
Well, I think, working for the tribe and seeing all of the things that were going on. And I just felt like I had this feeling that I could contribute to the future in some way, because we were at a point where we were still living with racism and all of those things. The state didn't really know us, and I felt like I just had a feeling that I could do this because, I think a lot about my dad and how he taught us to work hard, and I thought if you could make decisions that were in the best interest of all the people, that and do the right thing. I always felt like if I did the right thing, no matter how contentious it was, even if I was the only person who said, no, this is wrong, we need to do this, I would stand up for that. And, you got to follow your gut feeling and your heart and do those things. Because I never thought I would have it in me to do all that I did.
But it sounds like you were really driven by doing the right thing.
Yes.
Well, who has a question? Oh, seriously. There you go. All right. And be sure to put it up close to your mouth so she can hear you. And if you'll identify your name and your town, please.
I'm Patty Natick, and I'm from Cambridge, Massachusetts, visiting here in Rockland. I was wondering one thing, well, two things. It's about justice. When I was watching the film, I saw that you recognized that things were unfair and you did something about it. And now I wonder, what are your priorities today? What is going on with the Maliseet tribe?
Well, I actually haven't been involved with the tribe since I left my office. But I feel, from looking on the outside in, I feel like they're doing a tremendous job. They've expanded and are doing a lot of cultural activities. They bought a small hotel recently, and that are partnering with the Temple Cinema in town. So they're really, I feel like they're expanding, and I think they're doing great at this point. I haven't heard any negative at all. And I think a lot of people now are wanting to work for the tribe because they see that all these projects that are going on, and it's exciting for them to be involved with that. So things have changed a lot from my time to now.
That was actually my question, but I have another as well. Is the tribe? Oh, Dawn Harler, and I'm from Camden. Is the tribe living by themselves and on a reservation, or are you integrated more into the Houlton community? What does that look like now?
They're expanding the reservation, and all because the one thing about a tribe is they're always looking to see what in the future what they need and what they're going to do in the future for the community. And housing's a big issue in town. Well, it is everywhere now, but they're always looking for future lands to build new homes on, and some of the families are not living there because there's just not enough homes there. So, but a lot are integrated into the community now, but it's not. It's more. It's changed so much since then. We don't feel like we suffer that racism anymore, and in having to explain ourselves all the time or being put down. We don't go through that anymore, and that's a wonderful thing.
That's very nice to hear. I wondered also, are people employed in the community, and is that going well?
The tribe is the biggest employer of their members. They do employ a lot of tribal members and focus on education, but there are a lot of townspeople too, that professionals that do work for the tribe now.
Other questions?
Oh, okay. Judith Moses from Camden. And I was just wondering, has it increased then, the amount of children going to school and going on to college?
It has, yes. It has, yes. I mean, our very first chief of our tribe, which you saw a picture of him with Jimmy Carter signing the land claims, excuse me, he was the first Native American Maliseet in Houlton to graduate from high school. Like one person. And because life was so hard back then, you know, it's like your parents needed you to stay home and help out, and they didn't appear to think that school was important. My mom would always say, you can just stay home today, you don't have to go to school. And it wasn't important because, you know, she might have needed me. I did have like 6 brothers and 3 sisters, and being the third child, a lot of times I was the one watching the rest of them. So it was, school wasn't a priority. I didn't realize until I went to college that my father couldn't read. I never knew that. I was never talked about. He'd look at the newspaper, so I figured he must be reading the paper. I never asked him, but when I got back from college, I learned that he couldn't even read. And I said, how did you get your license? Like from, you know, they made a joke way back when that a lot of people would get their license from the Sears and Roebuck store. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I couldn't imagine how if he couldn't read signs or he couldn't read anything, how did he drive? That was my first thought.
Other questions?
Well, Brenda,
Where you live in Houlton?
I'm Carmen LaVirtue. I visited you in Littleton several times on my way home to Madawaska or Grand Isle, where I've just been a few weeks ago. I live here in town. So I'm so glad to see you. But I think we also had a Quaker group that was interested in Indian affairs when I moved back here from where I'd been in New York and many other places in the world. And we had you as a visitor several times. So it's really good to see you. I didn't stop in Littleton this time, that I had to go on the occasion of one of my sisters dying in Madawaska. But I'm so glad to see you today.
It's good to see you too.
Okay.
Eileen Kleinman, Camden, Maine. What you achieved becoming the first chief as a woman is remarkable, and we're on the eve of something possibly momentous. But I wanted to know more specifically what you did to turn the tide, to break that glass ceiling. Is it even applicable? I think it's remarkable, but it set you in a position to grow what you did and achieved remarkable things. Can you talk a little bit about that momentous moment when you were elected for the first time in the history of the Houlton Band?
Yes, actually, when I was elected, of course, the newspapers wanted a story, so I had given one. And before it was published out in the paper, I could not sleep because I thought, you know, did I say the wrong things? Am I going to, you know, because I didn't want to, you know, embarrass our community at all in any way. And so I couldn't sleep at all, but I didn't realize, you know, after a few weeks going by that there were so many issues with the tribe that I had no idea of. You know, the town and the tribe were, and the housing were all involved in legal court cases about money and payments and things like that, which I didn't have any idea, and I got a little worried about that. I wasn't sure, you know, what other things that needed to be attended to right away, and so to get those things out of the way, it took a few years actually in talking with the town officials, the town councilors, um, and having meetings with them and trying to resolve these issues with the town were difficult. But I think patience and determination and just trying to explain our position and trying to resolve, you know, issues that were already there with the tribe was one of the things that I wanted to do so that, you know, we could move on to other things like our Head Start school and other things that we needed to work on. And so those things took quite a few years to build an understanding with the town. And still at that point, there was a lot of tension going on with pilot payments on the homes for HUD housing and just other things like that. So it took a while to resolve all of that, but we were determined to, and because we felt like we couldn't move forward until we resolved the big issues there.
Hello. My
Hello.
name's Neil. I'm also from Cambridge, Mass. We're staying in Owl's Head. Sort of three parts. One, how many people are part of the tribe or families? Do you have your own language? And if so, is it being passed along to younger folks? And third, related to younger people, are they staying on the reservation or is there an issue with them leaving?
When we were first recognized in 1980, the tribe didn't have a lot of members. Because back then, like there was going to be a presidential election, and they were trying to become recognized before President Reagan came in, and so they negotiated with President Jimmy Carter, but it was the other big two tribes in Maine that filed a suit to become legally recognized. Our tribe wasn't part of that. Our Maliseet tribe only learned at the last hour, at the last minute during all these negotiations that they were having at the time, learned that the other tribes were going to become recognized, and the Maliseet said, hey, wait, we want to be part of that too. And so our leaders came in late in the game to do that. So there wasn't a lot of language, and it was a little complicated with the Maliseets. It was different with the other tribes and what they negotiated with the state. But you know, they did that. And, you know, a lot of people talked about that for years, but they did that because our community was suffering. Our community was poverty and no education and racism and kids being taken and it goes on and on. I mean, the townspeople, they weren't shy about talking about our community members in public, in the paper, to bring us down. And so they did all that at the last hour because we really had nothing. We had no hope of housing. We had no hope of education. We had nothing. And with recognition would bring federal funds in for education and all of those things that the tribal community needed at the time. And so there weren't a lot of members back then, probably 500 at the most. But every year now we have a enrollment statute that the council, adopted, and they look at membership every year, once a year. So we have quite a few members now, but back then we didn't, because we didn't have anything in place. There was no lands, there was no place to build a reservation or anything. So literally from nothing, the tribe, built their community. We rented a place in town where the tribe's headquarters were, and tried to get everything in place that the other tribes already had in place. So we had a lot to do. And your other question was?
Language?
Language, yes. The language, we never spoke the language really, because we were integrated into public schools, I went to a Catholic school, but there were also public schools. And we were told not to speak our language by our family, because they didn't want us to be ridiculed. They didn't want us to say, hey, what are they saying, or anything like that. Like, my mother spoke fluently, and all my relatives speak fluently. I don't, because their reservation over in Canada, where I lived for a lot of my life, I guess, they have schools and they teach it to the young that come in. So they're speaking it coming right in, and they have all that going on. And we didn't have that. And so my mom would teach us a lot of the words of the Maliseet, but mostly they were bad words, that you didn't really want to say, to not swearing words, because there's no swearing words in the language of the Maliseets. There's nothing that, but some words that might not be so nice. And right now we do have a language program at the tribe, and we have had one for over the past years, but it's never really taken off and been successful, because you really have to have people to speak to. If I spoke fluently, who would I speak to? Like, you have to speak it all the time. And if you don't have somebody here, like where we live, they speak it all the time in Canada, but not here.
I have a question from Zoom I want to hop in and say. Let's see. Question for Brenda. If you were talking to young women today, what would you tell them about aspiring to leadership today? This is from Pat on Zoom.
I always really encourage young people, and especially young women and young men too, to really become educated and go to college, go to school, learn things, because you never can stop learning. And I see, like, since COVID came and everybody was shut down and home, a lot of the kids that I see now they have social issues going on, and they were, where they were not in school at that time, they didn't seem to want to go back to school. But I encourage young girls all the time to start at an younger age. I was really shy. I wouldn't say boo to anyone. I can't even believe that I would run for a political office. But these young girls, I try to give them confidence that they can do different projects and get up and talk about it, and they do, and they say, well, I was scared. And yeah, everybody, has that feeling. It's not easy to do, but I feel like they have a lot of ability to be who they want to be. And I think that they see that now that, for the first time, there's women now in leadership at our tribe, and it empowers them too. It makes them say, gee, maybe someday I could do that, or I could be on council. And I tell them, that they can do that.
One of the questions that came up last night in Bath that I thought was it in Bath, or were we talking about it later, Susanna? I can't remember. But that scene where you're being sworn in and everyone left the room, what was that like for you?
My heart sank. I told myself, what did I get myself into? Like, oh no. Because, I wasn't the candidate that they wanted at the time. And it was difficult at first because, it wasn't easy at all. Every 2 years we have an election, and we have 6 tribal council members that you work directly with all the time, and they change. It's not the same people all the time. So, you might get used to being with 6 tribal council members, and then 2 years it might be different individuals. So it was always, it seemed like always trying to educate our own of what was going on when they took a new leadership role, or educating people downtown or the state house. And it was a constant education of some of the things that we were working on. And I was really disappointed that evening, but I always told myself, even when it was rough and hard, it wasn't an easy position to be in, but I would always tell myself that no matter what, the people elected me. It wasn't the 6 people around the table that I had to, really be concerned about. It was the community. So it was what I told myself, like, I'm elected for them. And no matter what, whether they liked me or they didn't like me or whatever I was doing, I was going to represent every single one of them to the best of my ability while I was there.
Lynn Allen. I live in Rockland. Oh dear. I remember Lynn Allen from Rockland. I remember in March of 2023 going up to the State House and hearing all the chiefs address the legislature and being really impressed with hearing what all the accomplishments of all the different tribes, and also being disturbed that the chiefs had all invited the governor to attend and hear, and she did not. I'm just wondering, it's an ongoing source of frustration to me that the tribes have worked so hard to gain sovereignty, and there's this continued pushback against that. Could you talk about that a little bit, and what maybe the difference it would make for the Maliseets?
Well, that's what you just mentioned. It doesn't surprise me at all, because way back when, it was always that way. We were always in Augusta. We're in Augusta. We're always hopeful when we put everything into, sitting down and talking with the governor or the Judiciary Committee, whoever we might need to talk to, explaining over and over why this is important to us. And we'd still walk away with nothing. Like, go home, guys. Go back to Houlton. You're not getting anything. We're not proving it. And it was like that from day one. It's not changed. I've worked with the governor when she was Attorney General. And so, you know, I don't know what it is to me. To me, this is just my opinion of it. It's a fear that the tribes will become economically, you know, self-sustaining. And it's a fear of if the tribe's successful or not. They don't want that. And I don't know why that is. When there's other things going on in Maine, but when the tribe wants to start to do something that's already going on, they'd say no. And I don't know why that is. I don't know. But I sure wish that someday some governor is going to champion Native issues. And they will be remembered by all of the Native people in Maine. That's my hope.
You should know that we have our state senator, Penny Beebe Center, sitting here, so you're preaching to, sorry, Penny. It's your job. She'll be taking that back to Augusta, I'm sure. So, did you say you did? Okay, so we are out of time. Is there some pressing question anyone would like to ask?
I was just wondering, how did you organize to get elected in the beginning? I mean, what did you do? Did you go around to the people? Or?
I didn't do anything.
Good, good.
I did nothing.
Did somebody come to you and say, you need to run?
No, no. Well, my boss came to me and said, you really should run for a council seat, a tribal council seat. And I never thought about it, like, at all. I liked my job. And, you know, talking to my friends from other tribes, they're like, no, don't do that. Don't run because, you know, in the end, you're not going to be happy. I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, because you're going to be a has-been. I said, a has-been? I never heard tell that. But so it didn't run. It wasn't that way because when I did my petition for tribal chief, I was still working at the band office. And I was told not to say a word to anybody about anything about politics, or I could get fired. So I didn't say anything to anyone. I didn't campaign. I didn't do anything because I was scared that I was going to lose my job, or I had to still be working there when, you know, the tribal chief that worked there then knew I was running, and he wasn't too happy with me, like, about it all. He wasn't happy at all. And so I never said a word. I didn't get posters. I didn't tell anybody. I put my name on the ballot. I got my petition in, and that's all I did.
So your name was on the ballot, and people, that was the first they might know that you were running, when your name was on the ballot?
Yes. And everybody afterwards, they said, gee, we didn't know you were, like, interested in politics and stuff. Like, we didn't even know you were going to run for chief. And I said, well, I was told not to say anything. Like, don't you say a word about this to anybody. So I didn't. I was being, you know, watched and surveillance or whatever. And so And I didn't really even expect to say, I'm going to win this election. I'm going to win. I never did, ever. I said, well, I could just be here 4 years. I could be here 4 years and then I could be gone. Or I could be here another 4 years and then I'll be gone. So I never expected that I was ever going to get in every time. Like I would just, talk to people, and I had an open door policy for the members. They could come in anytime to talk to me, and they knew that. So, but yeah, I didn't do much my first time when I got in, which surprised me too.
Your actions felt they knew you and they trusted you.
Yes.
Well, Brenda, we can't thank you enough for spending this time with us and the audience as well. I think her story is important, and there's still a lot of work to be done, as I understand, but for 20 years, you really, as Donna Loring said, you really modernized the tribe and gave your successor, a woman, by the way, a nice foundation on which to build. So,
And Brenda, you were so gracious to keep welcoming us to your home, to Houlton. Every trip, you would keep talking to us, so thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you all for coming this evening.
bye, Brenda. We'll see you again.
Thank you.
And thank you all as well.